This is Minecraft trailers versus Minecraft reality. And hey, according to YouTube, it's impossible to subscribe with your device upside down. So to prove them wrong, flip your screen and aim for that sub button above. It's free and it helps out a ton. 13 seconds into the Tricky Trials update trailer, we can see a rendering error where they had it where the chest opens but leaves the lock on the bottom, instead of the way that it happens in game where the actual white part of this lock lifts up at the top part of the chest. And even later in that same trailer, it's animated correctly. It just seems like something that slipped past. But with how much is going on screen in just this one shot, I get it. When our characters get shot in the 1.21 update trailer, you'll realize that any residual arrows are rendered as sprites instead of the entities that we see in game. And because of that, we're able to see the white parts of the arrowhead sticking out of Kai when they get shot. Whereas in game, it looks arguably more painful, with the arrows actually fully submerged inside of the character. Kai also just cannot seem to catch a break in this trailer, since later on they catch on fire during the big climactic ending scene. But what's interesting about that fire is that here it's rendered as a 3D texture, much in the same way that it is when you light a fire on the ground. However, when we catch on fire in both versions of the game, Java and Bedrock, it's rendered as a flat texture on both sides. Cats scare away creepers. It's one of the main reasons to have them as a pet in your world. But even though that's true, they don't exactly work like this. And it's within the trailer where Mojang shows off the new default skins that we can see in the background a cat scaring away a creeper by chasing it off. And unfortunately, that just doesn't happen in the games. I mean, the cats don't chase after the creepers like wolves do to skeletons. They just simply hang around and then the creepers won't come by. Which, I get. I don't want to do extra work if I don't have to either. If they can just laze around and get the job done, fine by me. In that same trailer showing off the new default skins, we can also see a goat falling over in the background, which I'll admit is pretty funny, but last I checked, this game wasn't developed by Sakurai. There's no random tripping in here. But the goat isn't the only clumsy one, since earlier we can see the player character tripping over their very own cat. And thankfully, none of this happens inside of the game. Pigs are one of the oldest forms of travel in Minecraft, and maybe because they're one of the oldest, they're also definitely one of the slowest. So it's shocking to see here in this trailer that a saddled pig is able to keep up with an elytra. I mean, even a horse can't do that inside of Minecraft. And especially given the fact that all they're holding is a redstone torch and not even the carrot on the stick that speeds them up, it really makes me feel like I've done a bad job at training my saddled pigs. And honestly, if you want to go fast with a pig inside of the game, you're better off just killing it so that you can sprint with the pork chop. While the 1.21 update gives us a new way to boost off with our elytras instead of using rockets, now with the advent of wind charges, that was definitely not the case back in November of 2022, which makes this moment from the Minecraft trailer seem even weirder by comparison. Here they're able to use all the speed with the elytra to take off without ever using a rocket. And while it might be easy to believe that they used something like a Flight Duration 3 earlier on, with how much they're swaying close to the ground and then launching back up, there's just nothing like that you're able to see in regular gameplay. In the Craft Your Path trailer for the Wild update of 1.19, you can clearly see that Alex is using the wrong tool to harvest Skulk, since you wouldn't want to be using something like a pickaxe when the actual tool is a hoe. And while it is enchanted, so you could assume that they're using Silk Touch, then while they'd still be able to get the item that way, it's definitely not the fastest. And if you ask me, if you're inside of an ancient city, you'd want to be using whatever you can to get the job done and get out of there as soon as possible. Especially considering you can get the job done with a cheap hoe. I don't even know how to read the line regularly now. And especially when you can get the job done quick with a cheap hoe, I'd rather just go that way instead of wasting my nice pickaxe. Piglins in the Minecraft trailers have terrible aim. Really, it's like looking at people who learned how to shoot by watching Stormtroopers. It's just terrible. And in the 1.19 update trailer, they're clearly shooting at Alex, but they're clearly shooting nowhere near her. And unfortunately for us, the piglins in-game have a much better shot. And that's not even tied to the difficulty that we use. It's really just that they're coded with better AI. But considering they're not wearing much armor at this point in the trailer, I get it. I also wouldn't want to have my main character die 11 seconds into the show. Just show a lifeless corpse for the rest of the trailer. Doesn't seem like a good way to sell the new update. Glowberries glow a lot more inside of the Minecraft trailers than they ever have in game. And while some part of that's thanks to the fact that Mojang actually has shaders turned on inside of the trailers, here we can see inside of the lush cave that when the glowberries hit the floor, they still glow when they're dropped as an item. And for us in game, no item glows when it hits the floor. At least not unless you're using some kind of mod pack that adds in dynamic lighting. It's not possible to carry mobs inside of Minecraft. I mean, I guess you could put bees inside of a beehive and then silk touch it, but with the way that it's happening here in the Craft Your Path trailer, definitely nothing like this exists inside of our game. Or at least it doesn't in most updates, since oddly enough in the one block at a time snapshot, Mojang actually did add it in where you were able to carry chickens and even fly with them over your head like this. But unfortunately for us, this isn't Zelda. We're not just able to bring any chicken that we find down into Eldritch Horrors down below. As much as it pains me to say this, we're not able to pet mobs inside of Minecraft, which makes it even more hurtful when you see Steve doing just that inside of this trailer. Picks up the pet frog, sets it onto his lap, and then even goes one step further to pat it on the head. Oh, and also they're sitting on blocks too, which is something we just don't have the option to do without a server plugin. And I don't know about you, but I'm almost annoyed to have this pointed out to me, because now I can see that Mojang's considered letting us pet our frog pets, but yet it's still not in the game. I mean, come on, with adding in all the different wolves in the Armored Paws update, that seems like it would have been a layup to let us pet wolves at least. When Alex holds a torch in her hand in the Caves and Cliffs Update Part 2 trailer, you'll see that it gives off smoke particles when held, but that doesn't happen in either version of Minecraft. Actually, the thing that's most likely to give off particle effects when held in your hand is the sparklers that you can find inside of the Education Edition of Minecraft, but those also don't give off dynamic light sources like we see in the trailer, so even then, they're not much good for anything other than a light show. Just, a light show with no actual light. Throughout Minecraft history, it's been long debated whether these pixels on Steve's skin are a beard or a smile. And while I get that it's technically intended to be these two pixels as the mouth and then the rest is a beard around it, it seems like Mojang might have misunderstood that when they made this part for the beginning of the Caves and Cliffs trailer. Since here, that traditional curve up of the beard is instead smushed down to look a lot more like an open mouth on Steve. I mean, really, it's hard for me to see it as anything but that. This part here being the nose, the open eyes, and an open mouth. All the mobs in Minecraft, regardless of their shape, size, or anything else, will always cast a circular shadow, which itself is weird. I mean, it's a game made of cubes, why is every shadow circular? But that also makes it even funnier when you see this part of the trailer where Alex is scaring Steve with a shadow of what looks to be a spider, but it's instead actually a dead bush. I mean, I get it though, right? If I was shining a picture of a circle on a wall, you wouldn't exactly get frightened. Unless it's the angry sun from Mario 3, there's not a lot of deadly circles out there. Items in Minecraft barely have any physics to them, and that's why there's so many different mods that add in actual physics for how we drop our items. But there you have it, those are just that. Mods. And so when you see the items bounce inside of the actual trailer, like when Steve falls and the torch starts bouncing, we all know that items don't normally do this. And thank goodness that's not the case too. If I died from fall damage and then all of a sudden I not only have 5 minutes left to get my stuff, but I also have to figure out the trajectory at which they fell, I'm not looking to take a course in trigonometry. I'd rather just skip it and just pick up all my stuff in one pile, please. Minecraft mobs do not have a lot of personality to show, which in most cases is a good thing. That's how we're able to graft our own personalities onto them with something like Dr. Treoris or Patches and Branzy's videos. And while that's how it is in the regular game, in the trailer, that's just not the case. And here we see a pack of spiders actively laughing at Steve. But hey, we don't have hyenas in game, so maybe this is the closest we can get at a pack of animals laughing at us before they eat us. If you've ever looked at water tests inside of a game engine like Unity or Unreal, you're very well aware that people like to give plenty of particles to flow in water. And it seems like the Minecraft trailers are no different, since here when we get to the edge of this waterfall in the trailer, there's a whole bunch of splash particles that are being given off at the source. But in game, we have nothing like that. And instead, we've had to resort to build hacks in the past where we're using actual llama spit to get the same effect. Which, don't get me wrong, looks great, but if I had the option between this or getting spat on, I'd pick not having to get covered in spit, please. And it seems like piglins aren't the only ones who have worse aim inside of the trailers for Minecraft. Since if you look at the skeletons here in the Caves and Cliffs update, even though Steve and Alex are running away from an absolute army of the things, almost all of their arrows just fall into the wayside. Some of them are literally just hitting the ground when they get shot. And at that point, I get why later trailers have shown the skeletons not even carrying bow and arrows. Why even bother? In the Caves and Cliffs update trailer for part 1, when the goat smashes into the Vindicator, you can see smoke particles come off from the interaction. And not only that, there's also action lines too. And while in the base game, the goats won't really go track down Vindicators, there also just wouldn't be any particles at that come off from the collision. There's unfortunately a lot less visual flair that we get to see inside of the base game. And given how poorly the game has run since the Caves and Cliffs update, maybe that's for the best. Axolotls can be a helpful resource for when you're fighting guardians Guardians inside of an ocean monument. But while they will bully the Guardians and help us with the regeneration effect, you're not going to see any kind of bouncing around like they do in the trailer, which I've got to say is unfortunate. I'd also like to play beach volleyball in the game, but considering that the Guardians can also give off thorns to any mobs that attack them, it might be for the best for both us and our axolotls if the only spikes they have to worry about are on that volleyball court. If you've ever used a lead inside of Minecraft, you're well aware of how easy it is to break one of these things if you're going too fast. And so it's funny to see that when the goat hits the llama inside of this trailer, the wandering trader goes with it. Yeah, in my experience, the lead would just break and I'd spend the next few minutes trying to search for it before it despawns. And it's a shame we don't have this kind of elasticity to our ropes, since if we could, then it would be a lot easier to carry mobs with this elytra trick we've shown off in the past. What's interesting to see in this trailer is that the Striders are giving off shadows cast onto the light source. While it is possible to cast a shadow on top of lava, it's not done through this method. Instead, you'd have to be playing in Bedrock Edition and have the mob on top of a slab, where then the game glitches out and it displays the shadow on top of the lava. But just a Strider like this, it's not going to block out that much light. While it is true that the piglins are a terrible shot inside of the trailers, they more than make up for with swords. And here we can see the piglins one-shot Steve and Alex even when they're wearing full iron armor, which is more use than a golden sword's ever gotten from anyone. And in that case, I feel pretty left out. I mean, they're not even enchanted and they're doing this much damage. There's gotta be some way to use a sword that we're just not privy to. Kinda like how a Vindicator can use an iron axe for so much more damage than we've ever been able to do in game. While it is true that bees can increase your crop growth, we've never seen anything like what they're showing off in the Buzzy Bees trailer. Since here, what we're seeing is that the bees fly by the crops and they grow up in an instant. Which, I'll be honest, if Mojang wanted to roll out the nerf for bone meal that they did all those updates ago, if they added in something like this, that would have softened the blow at least. Because otherwise, I feel like a lot of players just forget about the fact of bees helping out with crop growth anyway. In that Buzzy Bees trailer, we can see villagers holding honey bottles while the bees fly by. But in game, that's not something you're gonna see. Don't get me wrong, villagers can hold items, but only the items that they trade. And the honey bottle is just not one of those. You'd really need something like the Beekeeper Specialist that we see in a mod like Charm. But for the vanilla villagers, nothing of the sort. Glow squids are the only mob in Minecraft that have any form of glow, except for in the trailer for the Buzzy Bees, where we see the red eyes glow of the killer rabbit. I mean, for one, we don't even have killer rabbits still in Minecraft, so it's weird to have any kind of red glowing eyes inside of this trailer, especially when they're attributed to different rabbit variants. Like here in the bottom right of the trailer, that's not a white rabbit, so I don't know why it's still got the creepy eyes in this version. In the trailer for the Village and Pillage update, we can see a villager holding a golden pick, which isn't an item that they're gonna use, but then also grinding it against a grindstone like you would if it was an actual item. And stranger still, this is a nitwit villager, which are famous for doing not much of anything. So seeing it actually take up an interest in doing anything for us inside of the village is a nice change of pace, but unfortunately, not one you're gonna find inside of the base game. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?